This customer wants a light strip, a LED strip underneath this step. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use our U channel, which is called an extrusion, with a diffuser cap on it. People always ask, what do we use to, attach that to concrete, your top caps, everything. What we use is a product made by Liquid Nail. It's called Fuse It Max. You put it in a caulk gun. You can buy this at Home Depot. Lowe's does not carry it, but I have seen it on Amazon. You can buy it there also. The nice thing about this is you can put it on warm or cold. So where we're at over here, in Cincinnati area, December, January, it's cold. We use the same stuff to mount these and they stay. We also have some clamps that we use once we put the extrusion up, and we painted this extrusion. So this extrusion is actually a rubbed oiled bronze color, just to kind of match. You don't have to paint them. It's entirely up to you.
We're getting ready to mount some strip lighting in the backyard. And one of the things we like to do, especially when we use these extrusions, so these are the metal extrusions that will go up under the ledge of a concrete step, and then the strip will go inside of it with a cover on it, make a nice clean installation. One of the things we like to do is paint the extrusion with spray paint to match the color that it's going to go on, so it's nice and hidden once it gets installed. Now, as long as you use an outdoor spray paint like a Rust-Oleum or something like that, that'll be fine, and just matching close enough to what you're going on so they hide nice and camouflage nice and easy right under the step. So real quick, we'll get that done, and then once these dry, we'll glue them up and we'll show you how that's done as well. Now, clearly you only need to paint one side because the other side is going to be facing back onto the step. So that's the only surface that'll actually be facing out and the only ones that need to be painted.
So now what we're going to do is I'm going to start at the end here because we're going to run a strip all the way down. So I'm going to start with my end and work my way down with the extrusions, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, this is a DeWalt caulk gun. You don't necessarily have to have one of these. You can use a regular caulk gun. This makes life a little bit easier. Milwaukee makes one, a bunch of other companies make them also. So what you want to do is you want to kind of get a nice bead. You don't want to make it flat, because what happens if you make it flat, it's not really gonna give you a good base. So what I do is I kind of make it nice and thick on the top. This stuff here is very sticky. It's kind of nice. Once you stick it up there, it's gonna stay for you, but you can actually place it, which is kind of nice. So see how it's staying just by putting a little pressure on it. Okay. Then you take your and I don't put too much pressure on it because you don't want it to kind of squirt out, but and this stuff dries pretty quick, especially if it's kind of warm, and today it's in the 70s here, so this should dry pretty fast. Then you move on to the next. I'll normally let this sit for probably 30 minutes or so, just to make sure it'll, it's on there. I have tons of clamps, so if you don't have a lot of clamps, you can do one at a time or a couple at a time and then just move them down. So these extrusions, like I was explaining, they are just a U channel. Your LED strip is going to lay inside here, okay? And these also, this is a two-parter, okay? So you have your aluminum U channel spot, then you have a diffuser, okay? And what this diffuser does is lays right in this track and actually pops inside this track, okay? Now, what this actually does, one, it diffuses the light, so you get a better beam, But in cases like what we're doing right now with this step, it's a very short, light spread that it needs. And if it's raining or it gets water on it, what happens is that you get a prism look with the water sitting on this extrusion on that light. So with this diffuser, it allows it not to do that. So that's the last step you would do. So once you're done, mounting your extrusions, you would lay your strip light in there, which actually just double sticks inside here. Then you would come back and you would pop your extrusion on, or your diffuser on. Now, remember, these come with a protective film on them so they don't get scratched. Make sure you take that off. The issue is it'll change the color of your colors. So if you leave that on there, sometimes some of it'll come off, and you'll get a call from a customer and says, hey, my lights look a little different. Well, 9 times out of 10, you probably left that on there. So make sure you peel that off. One other thing that I want to go over is cutting the extrusion, okay? You can cut these extrusions, they're just aluminum. What I use is just a 10 snips. So normally what I do is I'll mark my mark. I'll cut on both sides just like this. And then if you just wiggle back and forth, you'll get a nice even cut. So now we mounted our extrusions with Diffuse-It, had them clamped for about 30-40 minutes. They're in a good spot, none of them are sagging or falling. This step here, we're gonna use a 16-foot strip. I'm gonna start at this end because I can run my wire out the side over here. 3M two-sided tape. One thing to keep in mind, you peel this off and stick it, that's where it's stuck. You ain't gonna be able to pull it back off. You pull it back off, it's gonna rip the LED apart. So, what I normally do is I'll start with just a little bit. That way you don't get dirt in it while you're doing it. Now this one here, we're not cutting the strip. I can show you that on something else, on another one. So I'm gonna come right to the edge here, and we're gonna start sticking. I ran extrusions all the way to the end of this step, just so we could hide the wire inside of it and bring it out. So once we put our caps on there, this wire will come out and it'll be a nice hidden wire. After we mounted our strip, we're gonna use the diffuser. I like to start, so we started at that end with a full extrusion. When I got down here, I had to cut it. So what I like to do is kind of overlap where the extrusions come together. It seems to hold a little bit better. Instead of making it just, these are the exact same length as the regular extrusion, but if you can overlap where they meet, it'll hold it together a little bit. Make sure you peel off the protective coating. This one's a little bit tricky here. It'll be a little bit easier once we get over this, but you'll put this on here. And normally I kind of put it to the side, to one side, and then pop the other side on. So, and you'll hear it click. So as you go down, you'll hear them click. Okay, so we're to the end here, and obviously we have too much of a strip, okay? With the Haven strips, you can cut them every 6 LED, okay? So if you count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's a line there, there's a line here. You can actually cut it right on that line, okay? So normally what I do is I'll hold this up here, I'll find so it looks like this line is gonna be the perfect line, because if I go any further than that, it's gonna be back down inside here and it's not gonna work, okay? So what you're gonna wanna do is cut right in the center of that line, okay? Either scissors or wire strippers, and it's going to look like that. Okay. Now, the little packet that they give you, okay, it's going to come with silicone adhesive and new ends. Okay, so what I normally do is I'll peel off a little bit of this covering on the two-sided tape. You take your adhesive here. This cap's got a nice little puncture. And put your little hole there. I normally coat this pretty good. Then you take your end and you slide it on there, and that protects the end of your LED strip. And then you can go ahead and finish off your line.